Before Steve Harvey became America's favorite game show host, he starred in a forgotten sitcom that ranked number 20 in ratings yet was mysteriously canceled, featured Disney royalty in her final role, and brought Motown legends to a church fundraiser. Discover the bizarre true story behind Me and the Boys. Fact 1. Steve Harvey was homeless. Just 4 years earlier, before Steve Harvey became the star of Me and the Boys in 1994, he was living out of his car and struggling to survive. This wasn't ancient history either. Harvey had been homeless for 3 full years in the late 1980s, sleeping in his 1976 Ford sedan whenever comedy gigs didn't provide him with a hotel room. He was between the ages of 30 and 33 during this difficult period, showering at gas stations and public swimming pools just to stay clean enough to perform his comedy sets. Harvey has spoken openly about this chapter of his life, explaining that he was making around $50 a week while pursuing his dream of becoming a comedian. The conditions were brutal, but he refused to give up on his passion for making people laugh. During this time, a couple named Rich and Becky Liss helped Harvey by giving him a carpet cleaning contract and extending him credit at a travel agency, which provided some stability during his darkest days. His breakthrough finally came in 1990 when he became a finalist in the second annual Johnny Walker National Comedy Search, which led to him hosting It's Showtime at the Apollo. Just 4 years after sleeping in his car and wondering where his next meal would come from, Harvey was standing on a soundstage at CBS Television City in Los Angeles, filming his very first starring role in a network television sitcom. The journey from homelessness to leading man happened incredibly fast, making his appearance on Me and the Boys not just his television debut, but also a symbol of his remarkable perseverance and determination to succeed against overwhelming odds. Fact 2. The show was canceled, despite top 20 ratings. Me and the Boys achieved something that most television shows can only dream about. It ranked number 20 in the Nielsen ratings during its first season, making it a legitimate hit by any measure. In the world of television, breaking into the top 20 means millions of viewers are tuning in every week, advertisers are happy, and the show is generating real cultural buzz. Despite this impressive performance, ABC made the shocking decision to cancel the series after just 1 season, ending its run in February of 1995 after only 19 episodes. The network's official explanation for pulling the plug on a top 20 show was that Me and the Boys was too kid-driven at a time when ABC was trying to shift its programming strategy toward more adult-driven content in the early primetime hours. This reasoning baffled many industry observers and disappointed fans who had been following the show faithfully every Tuesday night. Steve Harvey himself was deeply upset by the cancellation, telling the Los Angeles Times in 1995 that what bothered him most was losing the message the show represented, saying it killed a lot of stereotypes about African American families on television. The decision to cancel a ratings success became even more puzzling when you consider that Me and the Boys was performing well with the 18 to 49-year-old demographic that advertisers specifically wanted to reach. The cancellation left Harvey crushed but not defeated, and he would go on to create The Steve Harvey Show just 2 years later, which ran for 6 successful seasons and proved that his comedy style could absolutely connect with audiences when given the proper chance to flourish. Fact 3. Madge Sinclair's heartbreaking final role. Madge Sinclair brought warmth and dignity to her role as Mary Cook, the live-in mother-in-law on Me and the Boys. But what audiences didn't know was that she was filming every episode while battling a serious illness. Sinclair had been diagnosed with leukemia back in 1982, shortly after joining the cast of the medical drama Trapper John M.D., and she had been fighting the disease for 13 years by the time she started working on this sitcom. Despite doctors' predictions that she wouldn't survive long, Sinclair continued to work consistently throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, appearing in numerous films and television shows while undergoing treatment. Her determination to keep acting even while sick demonstrated her incredible professionalism and love for her craft. Me and the Boys would turn out to be her final screen work, as Sinclair passed away on December 20th, 1995, at the age of 57 at Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles. Her death came just 10 months after the show's cancellation in February of that year, which means she lived to see the series end but didn't have much time afterward. Sinclair had built an impressive career that included an Emmy Award win for Gabriel's Fire in 1991 and memorable roles in the groundbreaking miniseries Roots, the comedy Coming to America, and as the voice of Cerebi in Disney's The Lion King. Her work on Me and the Boys represents the final chapter of a remarkable acting career that spanned over 2 decades, during which she broke barriers and earned respect as one of the most talented character actresses of her generation. Fact 4. The Lion King connection nobody noticed. While Madge Sinclair was appearing weekly on television screens as the sensible mother-in-law Mary Cook on Me and the Boys, she was simultaneously voicing one of the most beloved animated characters in Disney history. Sinclair provided the voice for Cerebi, the wise and caring mother of Simba in The Lion King, which was released in June of 1994, right in the middle of the sitcom's production schedule. This meant that audiences watching her play a grandmother helping to raise 3 boys on ABC had no idea she was also playing a lioness queen raising a cub in what would become one of the highest-grossing animated films ever made. The connection goes even deeper when you consider that Sinclair voiced Cerebi opposite James Earl Jones, who played Mufasa, Simba's father and the king of the Pride Lands. This was actually the second time Sinclair and Jones had played Queen and King together, as they had previously starred as Queen Aeolian and King Jaffe Joffer in the 1988 Eddie Murphy comedy Coming to America. The Lion King reunited them in remarkably similar royal roles, with Sinclair once again playing Jones's queen and the mother of the main character. What makes this even more poignant is that The Lion King became one of the best-selling home video titles of all time and turned out to be Sinclair's final film role. When Disney planned The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. In 1998, the directors chose not to include Cerebi's character out of respect for Sinclair, feeling that replacing her voice would be inappropriate and disrespectful to her memory and her contribution to the original film. Fact 5. First female Star Trek captain's last show. Madge Sinclair holds a unique place in science fiction history that most fans of Me and the Boys probably never realized while watching the show. Back in 1986, Sinclair appeared in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, as the captain of the USS Saratoga, making her the first female Starfleet captain ever shown on screen in the entire Star Trek franchise. Although her role was brief and she didn't receive on-screen credit for the appearance, her presence marked a significant milestone in a series that would later become known for featuring strong female leaders like Captain Kathryn Janeway. This groundbreaking moment in science fiction history came 8 years before Sinclair would film Me and the Boys, which means her final television work was done by someone who had already made her mark as a pioneer in the genre. Sinclair returned to the Star Trek universe one more time in 1993 when she guest-starred in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called Interface, where she played Captain Silva LaForge, the mother of the character Geordi LaForge. Interestingly, this created a connection between her Star Trek work and her earlier role in the landmark miniseries Roots, since LeVar Burton played both Geordi and the young Kunta Kinte in Roots, where Sinclair had played his character's wife. Her appearance in that Next Generation episode turned out to be her final guest-starring role in any series, coming just 1 year before she began working on Me and the Boys, which would ultimately be her last on-screen work of any kind. Fact 6. The Full House creators' secret project, Me and the Boys, wasn't created by random television writers. It came from 2 men who had already helped craft one of the biggest family sitcoms of the 1990s. Rob Dames and Lenny Rips, along with Bob Meyer, created Me and the Boys after previously working as writers and producers on Full House, the hugely popular ABC sitcom starring Bob Saget that had been on the air since 1987. This connection between the 2 shows wasn't just a coincidence or a footnote in their careers. ABC actually used it as part of their programming strategy by scheduling Me and the Boys to air on Tuesday nights immediately following Full House. This meant that viewers who tuned in to watch the Tanner family's wholesome adventures in San Francisco would seamlessly transition into watching Steve Harvey's character raise 3 sons in Dallas with the help of his mother-in-law. The scheduling created an interesting contrast between the two shows, as Full House featured a white widower raising 3 daughters with help from his brother-in-law and best friend, while Me and the Boys featured a black widower raising 3 sons with help from his mother-in-law. Both shows dealt with single fathers navigating parenthood without their wives, but they approached the subject matter with different tones and cultural perspectives. The fact that Dames and Rips were involved in creating both series shows they understood the family sitcom formula well enough to apply it to different types of families and situations, even though Me and the Boys never achieved the same level of long-term success or cultural impact that Full House enjoyed during its 8-season run. Fact 7. It aired between 2 TV titans. ABC gave Me and the Boys what television executives would consider a dream time slot. It aired at 7:30 on Tuesday nights, positioned directly between Full House at 7 o'clock and Home Improvement at 8 o'clock. This was an incredibly prestigious placement because both of those shows were massive hits that consistently ranked in the top 10 most watched programs on television during the 1994 to 1995 season. Full House was already in its 8th and final season and had built up a devoted audience over nearly a decade on the air, while Home Improvement, starring Tim Allen, was at the peak of its popularity and frequently competed for the #1 spot in the ratings. Being sandwiched between these 2 powerhouse sitcoms meant that Me and the Boys had millions of viewers already tuned into ABC who would naturally keep watching through the half-hour it occupied. This kind of scheduling is called a lead-in strategy, where networks place newer or struggling shows between established hits to give them the best possible chance of success by inheriting the audience from the show before it and feeding viewers into the show after it. The fact that Me and the Boys still got canceled despite having this golden placement makes the decision even more baffling, because shows in that position typically benefit enormously from the surrounding ratings juggernauts. Many programs would have killed for the opportunity to air between 2 top 10 hits, yet Me and the Boys couldn't survive even with that significant advantage working in its favor every single week. Fact 8. The 4 tops performed at a fake church fundraiser. One of the most unexpected moments in Me and the Boys came in the 8th episode of the series, titled Talent Show, which aired on November 15, 1994. The episode featured Motown legends the 4 Tops appearing as themselves and performing at a church fundraiser organized by Madge Sinclair's character, Mary. The 4 Tops were one of the most successful vocal groups in music history, known for their smooth harmonies and classic hits from the 1960s and 70s that had made them icons of the Motown sound. By 1994, the group had been performing for over 3 decades and had been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just 4 years earlier in 1990. Their appearance on a relatively unknown sitcom was a significant booking that gave the show some serious musical credibility and star power. According to the episode description, the plot involved Steve Harvey's character barely being able to stop his head from spinning when the 4 Tops paid a surprise visit to Mary's church fundraiser and wound up performing for the attendees. The group appeared as themselves rather than playing fictional characters, which was a common practice for musical guests on sitcoms during this era. Having a legendary act like the 4 Tops perform on the show demonstrated that Me and the Boys had enough industry respect and connections to attract major talent, even though the series itself was struggling to find its audience and would be canceled just a few months after this episode aired. Fact 9. Filmed in LA, but set in Dallas, Me and the Boys was filmed at CBS Television City in Los Angeles, specifically in Studio 46, even though the show was set in Dallas, Texas. This kind of arrangement was extremely common in television production during the 1990s, as most major studios and sound stages were located in the Los Angeles area, making it far more practical and cost-effective to film there rather than on location in the city where the show was supposedly taking place. The show never actually filmed any scenes in Dallas itself, with all the interior sets built on the soundstage to represent the Tower family's home and Steve's workplace. Speaking of Steve's workplace, the show gave Steve Harvey's character a very specific and very 1990s profession. He owned and operated a video rental store called the Video Depot. This detail perfectly captures the era in which the show was made, as video rental stores were everywhere in the mid-1990s and represented a thriving business before streaming services and digital. Downloads would eventually make them obsolete. The Video Depot served as a regular location in the series where plot points would unfold and where Steve would interact with employees and customers, giving the show a workspace setting beyond just the family home. The choice to make Steve a small business owner rather than giving him a more traditional job also aligned with the show's goal of portraying a realistic middle-class African-American family, as one reviewer noted that Steve actually had a visible means of income and didn't live in a house that was beyond what someone running a video store could reasonably afford. Fact 10. Future Grey's Anatomy star appeared long before James Pickens Jr. became a household name as Dr. Richard Webber on the medical drama Grey's Anatomy. He made a brief appearance on Me and the Boys in a much smaller role. Pickens guest starred in 2 episodes during the show's single season as a character named Coach Brown, appearing in 1994 when he was still building his television career through various guest spots and supporting roles. At that time, Pickens had been working steadily as a character actor in Hollywood for years, taking on small parts in films and television shows without landing the kind of major recurring role that would make him famous. His appearance on Me and the Boys was just another guest spot in what would be a long journey toward stardom, and nobody watching those episodes in 1994 could have predicted that this same actor would become one of the most recognizable faces on television a decade later. Grey's Anatomy premiered on ABC in 2005, and Pickens was cast as Dr. Richard Webber, the chief of surgery at Seattle Grace Hospital and a mentor figure to the younger doctors on the show. The role turned Pickens into a television icon, as he has appeared in every single season of Grey's Anatomy from its premiere through the present day, making him one of only a handful of actors to remain with the series for its entire run. Looking back at his 2-episode stint on Me and the Boys shows just how far his career would travel in the following years, transforming from a guest actor playing a coach on a forgotten sitcom to a lead actor on one of the longest-running and most successful dramas in television history. Fact 11. Robin Givens guest starred as a love interest. Robin Givens appeared in 2 episodes of Me and the Boys as Nina, a policewoman who became a romantic interest for Steve Harvey's character. At the time of her appearance in early 1995, Givens was one of the most talked-about actresses in Hollywood, though much of that attention stemmed from her highly publicized personal life rather than her acting work. She had become famous in the mid-1980s, playing Darlene Merriman on the popular ABC sitcom Head of the Class, which ran for 5 seasons from 1986 to 1991. However, her marriage to heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson in 1988 and their tumultuous divorce just 1 year later had thrust her into the tabloid spotlight in ways that overshadowed her professional accomplishments. By the time she guest starred on Me and the Boys, Givens was actively working to rebuild her acting career and move past the intense media scrutiny that had followed her divorce. Her character Nina was introduced in an episode where a break-in at the Tower family home brought the policewoman into Steve's life, and a subsequent episode explored Steve's romantic interest in her, though apparently those feelings were not reciprocated according to the episode description. Givens brought her considerable television experience to the role, and her appearance represented the kind of recognizable guest star that sitcoms often brought in to boost ratings and create buzz around particular episodes. After Me and the Boys, Givens would continue working steadily in television, eventually landing a 2-season run on the UPN sitcom Sparks from 1996 to 1998. Fact 12. Steve Harvey also served as a writer. Steve Harvey didn't just star in Me and the Boys as his first leading role on television. He also contributed to the show as a credited writer, giving him creative input into how his character was developed and what kinds of comedy the series would feature. This dual role as both star and writer was somewhat unusual for a first-time television lead, as networks typically preferred to keep actors focused on their performances while leaving the writing to experienced television writers who understood the specific format and pacing required for sitcoms. However, Harvey's background as a successful stand-up comedian meant he had years of experience crafting jokes and understanding what made audiences laugh, which gave him valuable insights that the show's creators recognized and wanted to utilize. Having Harvey involved in the writing process allowed him to shape his character, Steve Towers' voice and comedic style, in ways that felt authentic to his own comedic sensibilities and strengths as a performer. This kind of creative control was something Harvey clearly valued, as he would later take on similar writing duties on The Steve Harvey Show when it premiered in 1996, demonstrating that he wanted to be more than just an actor reading lines that other people had written for him. The writing credit on Me and the Boys showed that even early in his television career, Harvey was thinking about the bigger picture of how sitcoms were constructed and how his comedy could be translated from the stage to the screen in ways that maintained his unique voice and perspective while fitting into the traditional family sitcom format that dominated network television during this era. Fact 13. The show featured Sherman Hemsley. Sherman Hemsley, the legendary actor best known for playing George Jefferson on The Jeffersons, made a guest appearance on Me and the Boys during its brief run on ABC. Hemsley's presence on the show brought serious sitcom credibility, as he was one of the most recognizable faces in television comedy history after spending 11 seasons playing the loud, ambitious, and often hilarious George Jefferson from 1975 to 1985. The Jeffersons had been a groundbreaking sitcom that tackled issues of race and class while remaining funny and entertaining, and Hemsley's performance as the owner of a successful dry cleaning business who had moved his family to a deluxe apartment in the sky had made him a household name. By the time he appeared on Me and the Boys in 1994, Hemsley had been making guest appearances on various television shows for years, lending his comedic talents and star power to programs that wanted to attract viewers who remembered him from his iconic role. His appearance on Me and the Boys put him in a scene with Steve Harvey, creating an interesting generational moment where an established sitcom legend appeared alongside someone who was just beginning their television career. Hemsley played a character named Irv in his guest spot, though the specific details of what his character did in the episode have been lost to time since the show never achieved widespread syndication or home video release. Having someone of Hemsley's stature appear on the series demonstrated that Me and the Boys had enough industry respect to attract veteran performers who could have been selective about which projects they chose to join. Fact 14. Only 19 episodes exist forever. Me and the Boys produced exactly 19 episodes during its entire run, which lasted from September 20th, 1994 to February 28th, 1995, a span of just over 5 months. This brief lifespan makes the show one of the rarest examples of Steve Harvey's work in television, as those 19 episodes represent the complete collection of material that will ever exist from this series. Unlike many canceled shows that at least manage to produce enough episodes for syndication packages, which typically require around 100 episodes to make daily reruns financially viable for local stations, Me and the Boys fell far short of that threshold. The lack of syndication means that the show essentially disappeared from television after its cancellation, never experiencing the second life that many programs enjoy through reruns on cable networks or local stations during off-peak hours. This scarcity has turned Me and the Boys into something of a lost piece of television history, with many people who remember Steve Harvey from his later successes having no idea that this earlier sitcom even existed. The show has never been released on DVD or made available through major streaming services, which means that tracking down episodes to watch has become extremely difficult for anyone curious about this forgotten chapter of Harvey's career. Some fans have expressed hope over the years that a network like BET might pick up the reruns and introduce the show to a new generation of viewers, but that has never materialized, leaving those 19 episodes as rare artifacts from the mid-1990s that most people will never get the chance to see. Fact 15. Wendy Raquel Robinson's pre-Steve Harvey Show appearance. Wendy Raquel Robinson appeared on Me and the Boys in a role that would mark the beginning of a professional partnership with Steve Harvey that would prove far more successful in their next collaboration together. Robinson played a character named Amelia, who served as Steve Harvey's character's girlfriend during the show's single season, giving her regular screen time alongside Harvey as they developed their on-screen chemistry. At the time, Robinson was still early in her television career and working to establish herself as an actress in Hollywood, making Me and the Boys an important opportunity even though the show itself wouldn't last very long. The real significance of her appearance on this series became clear just 2 years later, when Steve Harvey landed his next sitcom opportunity with The Steve Harvey Show, which premiered on the WB network in 1996. Harvey specifically wanted Robinson to be part of this new project, casting her as Regina Greer, also known as Piggy, a fellow teacher at the high school where Harvey's character worked. This time, the partnership between Harvey and Robinson clicked with audiences in a way that Me and the Boys never quite managed, as The Steve Harvey Show ran for 6 successful seasons from 1996 to 2002 and achieved the kind of syndication success that had eluded their first collaboration. Robinson's role on The Steve Harvey Show made her a recognizable face in television comedy and launched her into a career that would include numerous other sitcom appearances and film roles. The fact that Harvey brought her back for his second sitcom shows that he recognized her talent during their time working together on Me and the Boys.